প্রিয় দর্শক, আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত অর্থসংলাপে। আপনাদের প্রিয় অনুষ্ঠান বাংলাদেশের অর্থনীতির এগিয়ে যাওয়া, সংকট, সম্ভাবনা সবকিছু নিয়ে আমরা আলোচনা করি এই অনুষ্ঠানে। আর প্রতিদিন একটা বিষয়ের গভীরে যেতে চাই। আজকে আমাদের বিষয় হচ্ছে বাংলাদেশের বাজার। আর বাংলাদেশের বাজারটাকে আমরা দেখব বিদেশিদের দৃষ্টিতে, বিশেষ করে দেশের অলরেডি ট্র্যাডিশনাল মার্কেট, নতুন একটা ধারা চলে এসেছে অনলাইন শপিং অ্যান্ড ই কমার্স, সেটা নিয়েও আমরা কথা বলবো। কারণ আমাদের সাথে আছেন জোনাথন ড্রুয়ার, তিনি এশিয়া প্যাসিফিক সি অফ daraz.com। আমাদের সাথে আছেন ই কমার্স সেক্টর অ্যানালিস্ট রায়ান ক্লেমেন্টস। The first I should go to the Jonathan. Jonathan, you have experience, you are monitoring this market for more than a year, I think. What is your observation about the Bangladesh market first, then go to the Bangladesh online market?
So with Daraz, we're actually in 5 countries. We're in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Myanmar, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. And when I look at the Bangladeshi market and what we did before we actually entered the market, it's a very interesting market for us. We have a huge middle class with almost 50 million people. And that's of course very attractive for us, and that's why we decided at the end to enter this market. We also believe that when we look at the growth of Bangladesh and the development, that something like e-commerce is really needed, and that the Bangladeshis are asking for more products, better products, and also asking now for more convenience in shopping. And that's why we decided actually to bring Daraz to Bangladesh almost 2 years ago.
Not only for Daraz or this, what what aspects of Bangladesh market insisted you to come here?
I think actually what the Bangladeshi market has, which is very attractive, and again that's the reason why we then came, is that they have actually a lot of products which are locally produced, and I think that's something which is good. But when you think about where these products are, when you're in a big city like Dhaka, it's maybe available, but you see small markets, you see big markets, small little stores, and it's very complicated to actually get to these products. So there are millions of products in the market, but how do I get them? This is, I think, still very complicated. And when I think beyond Dhaka, when I think actually for the rural areas, it's even more complicated for them to access all these products. So for us, we saw there is already a good market of commerce. There's something where people buy and sell, but the way of they doing it in Bangladesh is still, I think, complex and complicated. And the brick and mortar, for example, is not as developed as in Europe or in the US. And that was for us actually the reason to say there is commerce, there is business, and we need to find a way now to access it or make it accessible for the people easy, and to have a convenient way of shopping. That was for us the reason actually to enter the market.
That's fantastic, Ryan Clements. What is your observation of the South Asian trend, entire South Asia, how it is developing in terms of the new market, new platform?
I mean, if we look across to our country, to the Daraz countries across Asia, you have Pakistan, you have Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. The main trends we look at is from India, where obviously the growth in e-commerce is extremely high. You have a lot of competition there, and the consumers in India have really taken to e-commerce in a way that they haven't in the other sectors. So I think in the coming years, what you're going to see in the other South Asian countries is more of a trend to what we see in India. People are going to get more accustomed to buying online, more familiar with receiving deliveries at door, more familiar with online payments. So it's a very good time for South Asia for e-commerce.
If you say the Myanmar market, what about the Myanmar market?
Yeah, and the Myanmar market as well. It's also very interesting. It's got an extremely high rate of internet penetration. And what we see in Myanmar, which is very interesting as well, is it's got even higher catch-up rates with the other countries. 5 years ago, for instance, the internet penetration and the number of mobile operators in the country was very low. Now they've caught up very quickly, and the consumers there are getting very quick to e-commerce very quickly. So Myanmar is also an interesting market.
Jonathan, you know, what is the media made perception about Bangladesh? If you go 10 years back, it's a country, striving country, people of striving people, poor country, only disaster. But now, what you see reality? What is the reality, and what you had perception by media? What is your experience?
So I only can say that about my personal experience actually when I talk with my family, my friends in Europe, about the countries I'm operating, I'm working in now for over 2 years. Of course, there's actually not so much knowledge about Pakistan or Bangladesh, Myanmar, and then of course they asked me a lot. So and then they have maybe some perceptions from what they saw on TV, and they heard about this and that, and I think what is interesting then for me now is actually really knowing these countries, knowing the people, knowing how welcoming Bangladeshis are, how happy these people actually, how welcoming they are to me. And this is of course also the message I bring to my friends and to my families, that the people are very, very nice, very welcoming. I think that's my personal experience I have. I love the food. I think that's also an important point. And then when you look at, and I think that's also something very interesting when we come back to the business part, where I say, do you actually know how many people live in Bangladesh? I think that's something where people are very excited when I said, think about the whole region, where all the 5 countries where Daraz is operating in, that's almost 500 million people, which is our potential market. And then people actually understand why it makes sense for a company like Daraz to be in these 5 countries. These countries have a huge potential, almost 500 million people. And e-commerce, in my opinion, when we look at the market, is actually something that is more needed in these countries than even in Europe or the US. Because, as I said, brick and mortar is not so developed. The big malls are not there as in other countries. So that means e-commerce, in my opinion, will be in 2, in 5, in 10 years even more important in our countries we're operating in than in Europe or in the US.
Ryan Clemersika said, this is the part of Ryan now. Ryan, you are from Brisbane. Many Bangladeshis know, almost every Bangladeshi knows the cricket and Brisbane. What is your observation of the operational difficulties in an advanced country like Australia, in a country like Bangladesh? Usually, what factors have to taken care about the developing any business and operating any business?
Yeah, so in the operation space, it's interesting because the same factors which make Bangladesh such an attractive market for e-commerce, you have an extremely highly dense population in a very small country, are also the same reasons which make it so operationally difficult. So the traffic in Dhaka, the infrastructure connecting Dhaka to some of the regional cities is not as developed. These are real challenges which e-commerce companies have to face.
What difficulties usually this sort of country face, in developing countries face?
Yeah, so it's the main difficulties they face is just the delivery network is maybe not as developed. The infrastructure, the network of companies that it's operating in is not as developed. The road system, for instance, isn't as good. And these are challenges which make it very difficult for an e-commerce company to offer its services all around the country.
And do you think that these factors increase the cost of doing business also?
Absolutely, absolutely. If I can compare with the experience in Australia, last mile delivery is almost a simple matter. You can have a company which you can pay and they will do the last mile for you. In Bangladesh and in South Asia generally, it's a lot more difficult. And it involves a lot more investment from the business's side to set up these networks, to set up these requirements in order that you're even able to deliver your business. So yeah, I think certainly the cost is a lot higher.
What, Jonathan, what the government and the authorities should do for developing new markets or new platform of shopping? What they should do immediately? The priority list you could tell us.
So I think what we see already, before I come to the question, what we see already is, and that's very positive, we at Daraz work with more and more 3PLs, so third-party logistic providers, and we see more and more companies growing in Bangladesh who help us to deliver the products to the customers. I think that's very positive to see that there are young businesses growing with us and they grow with us at the same time. And it makes a lot of fun to actually build also the logistics network outside of Dhaka in the rural areas where we actually suffer the most, where we say here it's the most complicated for us to deliver. I think the government and the stakeholders and everyone who's involved in the industry, we need to all support whatever we can do that these kind of businesses can grow. That's of course the e-commerce sector in general, but also the logistics sector, that these companies have the possibility to grow in the rural areas where it's so much needed that we deliver faster and that we bring actually our products to the customer's home. And then, of course, for example, the Bangladeshi Post, which also supports now foreign companies like Amazon, which we recently read, they, of course, should also work with the local e-commerce sector, not only with Daraz, with all the local e-commerce companies like us, to support deliveries to the doorstep of the customer. I think that's where we need the most support. As Ryan already said, logistic is some of the big challenges we have. And if we can solve this together in the rural areas and also, of course, in the big cities, that would help actually the country the most.
Ryan, you know, there is allegations about the online companies in Bangladesh. Sometimes people say, I'm not getting the right product, I'm not getting the quality product, I'm not getting the product on what I was promised. Do you think it's a major problem in industry? How we can tackle that, or industry should tackle that?
I think in these early stages that you're in e-commerce in these countries, you're always going to face challenges, at least for a while, with proper delivery of the service. So for instance, matching the product to the order, ensuring quick delivery time. I think these are challenges which exist everywhere. Certainly if we look at India, these challenges have existed for a very long time and I think exist to this day. It's a learning curve, to be honest. It'll take some time to figure out these issues, but I think, as Jonathan said, as the ecosystem develops a little bit more, as the companies get a little more experience in delivering this kind of service, and indeed as the customers get used to the e-commerce as a service themselves, these issues start to go away.
I would like to jump in actually. I think we at Daraz, and I think that what people also need to understand, we're actually there as a customer protection. You need to think we're like a marketplace. That means we're between the customer and the vendor who sells the product. So we have several thousand vendors on our website who sell products. We have almost 100,000 products on our website right now. And Daraz is the trustee in the middle. So if a customer orders something on Daraz, we deliver the product or the third-party logistic provider. And if something is wrong with the product, if something is not right, Daraz will always make sure that the customer is 100% protected, and we will replace the product for the customer. And if something is wrong, we also will refund the customer. So we will never give the money to the vendor before the customer is happy. So Daraz is this trustee in the middle, and I think this is very, very important for the e-commerce space, that you have these trustee where you say, I trust Daraz that they replace the product for me if it's wrong or damaged, or they give me my money back. And I think that's something very important. Today, to be honest, we're not facing so many issues anymore with fake products or things like this, because we actually make sure we have a very strong control system on our vendors, where we control that these vendors only sell genuine 100% unique products, and we make sure that these products are in a good condition. And if something is happening, the customer can actually return his product, and we make sure that this actually works.
Fantastic. Ran, I think you have studied about the Bangladesh market. What is the behavior of Bangladeshi consumers in terms of for the new platform of shopping? And what are their priorities different than the other markets? What are their behaviors that different than other markets?
Sure. The behavior, to be honest, not so much. Bangladeshi consumers, and I think this is common in e-commerce generally, you're after a few things. You're after certain products which you can't get easily in the offline markets. You're after a quick delivery to your door, and you're after the protection which you can get from which would not be available elsewhere. So for me, the Bangladeshi market in terms of consumer behavior and e-commerce is not so different. Yeah, that's all.
And we also see that because Daraz operates in 5 countries, we see that the markets are very similar. So our best-selling products, for example, are mobile phones.
এবার যাব রায়ান ক্লাইমেটসের কাছে। রায়ান, this part will concentrate only on your Bangladesh and Bangladesh economy. What is your observation about the future of Bangladesh economy, future of Bangladesh market in terms of the all products and all services?
I think the Bangladeshi market shows great promise. If we compare it against the other countries in Asia, I think around for the last 5 years there's been over 6% growth, which is amazing. There's a lot of industries which show a lot of promise, from construction to garments, of course, which is very powerful here. in terms of position, you've got a very enviable position next to India and near China and near a lot of these growing markets, also in Southeast Asia. So I think there's a lot of good periods ahead for Bangladesh. The economy is growing very strong, and I think it's only going to get better.
Jonathan, what is your observation? The present and future of Bangladesh, consumerism and the capacity.
My observation is similar. I strongly believe in the Bangladeshi market, and what we see at the moment, Daraz is growing month over month with a double-digit percentage number, and this alone shows how e-commerce for us, and that's of course the most important thing, is growing in this market, is highly needed in this market. I think for us the biggest signal of seeing that something is going in the right direction for e-commerce is always when we look at the penetration of mobile phones, and this is something that grows very fast. I think we hope that also Bangladesh will get very soon a 4G network, because we see with 3G and 4G network that helps the e-commerce market, and we see a huge growth in the market. We have strong players in the market, and of course when the online penetration increases, that means also our customer base
What are the
increases.
problems? Critically, what are the problems?
The problem for us as an e-commerce company?
For you and the other marketeers.
I think, as we already discussed, there are some challenges. I think the logistics side, the delivery side outside of Dhaka is definitely one of the challenges. The second challenge we have is that, of course, when you look at our marketplace, it's not only about the consumers and how they come to our website and that they buy something. We also need to educate the vendor part. Vendors and importers and distributors, we also work on the other side. We need to educate them how to do online business. Just an example, when a customer places an order today and we go to the vendor and we want to pick up the product, these timelines, they are still not optimal. They still take too much time. We deliver in Dhaka on the next day when we have the product in the warehouse, and we can deliver outside of Dhaka also in 5 days. But we want to make that faster. We want to make that very fast, and it's not only about the logistic part, it's also about the vendors. How fast can the vendor give me the product, or how fast can the vendor give me the right product? For example, someone places an order online and then he sold the product already offline, and he doesn't have the product anymore. That is not very good for the customer, and of course he's very upset, and we understand that. So we work very, very closely with our vendors, with our distributors, with our importers, to educate them on e-commerce, to make sure that they're very fast and that they're very reactive, and that the customer at the end gets the product, he gets it very fast and has a great and convenient experience.
Satisfaction means business. Ryan, we want to hear from you in the broader sense. What are the problems of economy of Bangladesh? You find, you have experience in Bangladesh, economic and business, problems of economy and business in Bangladesh.
For me, the main problem which Bangladesh faces is maybe a bit of the ecosystem. So there's infrastructure is not so developed. There's some problems. There's some problems with infrastructure, of course. In other parts of the economy, at least in the e-commerce sector, one problem that we face here is your payment system. So the penetration, not just in mobile markets, but also in the percentage of Bangladeshis who have an active bank account, who have an active credit card. All these things need to be developed so that people can pay quicker, so that they can get products. This, for me, is really the nuts and bolts of the economy, which need to be working better. That's all.
Fantastic. Definitely government should this. Jonathan, where do you see Bangladesh after 5 years in terms of e-commerce, in terms of the market, in terms of economy, entire business?
So the funny thing is that 5 years for us as an e-commerce business, and when we look at our growth rates, when we look at how our business is developing, 5 years is a very, very long time. And we're actually not even thinking about 5 years. We think about what happens in this year, when we think about how we can make the business 2, 3, 5 times bigger in 1 year. This is the growth rates we're talking about. So we look really at short circles right now. But as I said, I think we're very happy what we have right now with daraz.com.bd in Bangladesh. We are convinced that our business will grow in the same speed as we do today. But we also know that when you look at online commerce, that we're just at the very, very, very beginning of something great coming in the next future. So if you ask me for 5 years, what's happening in 5 years, I believe Daraz will be still in Bangladesh. I think Daraz will be still the biggest e-commerce platform in Bangladesh, and we will have thousands over thousands of sales every day. But I think what is the most important thing, actually, what happens in 5 years is that we will be a well-known, trusty and trusted partner for the consumer to buy in a convenient way and to get all the products he wants at his doorstep. And I think that's the important thing, what we need to build. We need to build the trust of the customer, that we deliver our promises in delivery line, in product quality, and that we have over millions of products on our website. That's what I want to see in 5 years. And we're pretty convinced with our strategy and how we see the business and the country development that we will reach that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Ryan Clements. You delivered a very good in a short time. প্রিয় দর্শক, আমরা জোনাথন ড্রোয়ার, যিনি এশিয়া প্যাসিফিক সি অফ দ্য রাজ.com, আমাদের সাথে ছিলেন রায়ান ক্লাইমেন্টস। তিনি ই কমার্স খাত বিশ্লেষক, এশিয়া এবং অন্যান্য দেশে কাজ করেছেন। তাদের কাছে যেভাবে শুনলাম যে বাংলাদেশের সমস্যা আছে কিন্তু এক্সাইটমেন্টও আছে বাংলাদেশের এখানে। বাংলাদেশের মার্কেট সম্পর্কে তারা খুবই কনফিডেন্ট ইন দ্য ফিউচার। বাংলাদেশে যে বাইং ক্যাপাসিটি বাড়ছে বা এক্সপানশন হচ্ছে, টেকনোলজির আপগ্রেডেশন হচ্ছে, খুব ভালো ভবিষ্যৎ দেখতে পাচ্ছেন তারা। আবার কিছু প্রবলেমসের কথা বলেন। আমার কাছে মনে হয় যে পলিসি মেকার্স সহ অন্যদের এই ব্যাপারগুলো খুবই সিরিয়াসলি ভাবা উচিত। আপনাদের সবাইকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ।